Wolves will host Arsenal in the final game before the World Cup break at Molineux. Guys, it's Dave from Talking Wolves. We're looking ahead and previewing this game against Arsenal. And it is such a tough one, isn't it, to end this sort of first half of the season. Wolves desperate for some points, of course. And new manager Julian Lopetegui is going to be in attendance. So I'm sure a lot of us will be looking forward to seeing the images of him. And there will be some lucky people that see him in the flesh, I suppose, there on Saturday as well. We're going to be looking ahead to the game, the latest team news, my predicted lineup, and we've got the opposition preview later on in the video as well. Guys, before we kick off, though, one of our channel partners at Football Prizes, they've got a brand new Wolves prize up for grabs this week, and it is a signed Nathan Collins shirt. So a link to that prize draw is in the description down below. Enter that and it will end the middle of next week. But Wolves coming off the back of a promising, a decent victory, let's say, against Leeds United. It was a rotated team. We saw a good amount of minutes of players that haven't really had an opportunity so far this season. Joe Hodge getting a lot, good amount of minutes. I thought he had a really good performance yesterday. Connor Ronan obviously involved as well. Little cameo towards the end for Dexter Lembikisa as well. But it was a good chance to rest a couple of players that have played a good amount of minutes so far this season. Even the likes of Neves didn't play the full 90. We're hoping, obviously, to keep them fresh for Saturday's game as well. So Wolves, obviously, in to the next round. I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. The draw is tonight, so we'll wait and see who Wolves draw. Arsenal, on the other hand, had a defeat in the cup. It'll be interesting to see how that affects them. Just quickly grabbing the results up here. They're losing out 3-1 to Brighton, who obviously we lost to last weekend as well. The Arsenal team was fairly rotated, wasn't it? A lot of fringe players involved in that, so I don't think it's going to knock confidence or morale massively for them, and it's been a fantastic season for them so far, hasn't it, as well? Currently, in the Premier League, I believe they're top of the league, ahead of the likes of Manchester City and so on as well, with 34 points. A really promising start to the season for Mikel Arteta and co. And it's going to be, like I said, a really tough game going into this match. This time, I say this time, but when we were about to play them for the first time last season, we were in very similar positions in the league. They got the better of us at Molineux, and then we lost out at the Emirates a few weeks later, and that sort of derailed our season. I think you could pinpoint those games, or even the game against Leeds United last season in the league, which sort of killed our momentum and really, saw us slide down the table, you could say. But going into the team news, Nelson Semedo is back from a suspension. He got sent off last Saturday against Brighton in what was a really poor performance by him. It was only a one-match ban, so he should be back for the game on Saturday. In regards to Johnny, he had a slight knock in the game against Leeds United last night, so he did come off injured, so we're not too sure on how serious that injury would be. Obviously, Diego Costa is still out injured. Raul Jimenez won't be in the squad. He is currently with Mexico in Spain, and he was named on the bench yesterday for Mexico, much to the disgust of Wolves, who Mexico have now apparently apologised about that as well. So in regards to predicted lineup and so on, let's jump into that now. I've gone with Jose Sarr in goal, obviously. I thought Sarkic had a good performance last night against Leeds, but I think Sarr will keep his place there. Left back for Hugo Bueno, who had a rest last night. Aït-Nouri had an okay game, but I think Hugo Bueno deserves to come back in. First real big test for him against the attackers of Arsenal, who have been really, really good so far this season. Middle defensive two of Kilman and Collins, and right back I will stick Semedo back in there if Johnny's not fit. A lot of shouts for Lembikisa. I explained it on my Twitter last night. I don't think he's ready for a full start as of yet, so we'll stick Semedo in there. I think with us being a little bit more defensive, we might be okay. A midfield three, I'll go with Boubacar Traore. Capped off a good little cameo yesterday with the winning goal against Leeds United. Ruben Neves obviously keeping his place, and hopefully we see a fit Mateus Nunes in the midfield as well. And a front three, Gonzalo Guedes starting to look like the player that we wanted during the summer. Adama Traore, and I've gone with Daniel Podence ahead of Hwang Hee-chan. So probably see all three of those rotate in and around that front three. And of course we have got a big bet mate pot on for this week as well. It's the final one before the World Cup break. There will be World Cup games for BetMate as well during, obviously, the tournament. But we've got a guaranteed pot of £1,000, £5 in the link to join BetMate if you haven't already is in the top of the description. And my team, I have gone very heavy Arsenal for this one. We've gone with Aaron Ramsdale in goal, Saliba and Zinchenko at the back, Ruben Neves and Thomas Partey in the midfield with Saka and Gabriel Jesus up front. Of course, 18 plus UK residents only, and please do gamble aware. And obviously, you can change your teams up until 5 minutes before kickoff as well. But we've got the opposition preview now. I spoke to James from AFTV to get the lowdown on Arsenal, how they've been getting on this season, and what we can expect on Saturday. So delighted to be alongside James from AFTV. James, how are you keeping, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. Thanks for having me, and look forward to chatting about this actually, because Wolves are a club that I've sort of, I've been very impressed by since you guys came back into the Premier League. I know it's been up and down since, so I'm interested to get this kind of perspective from you guys as well as chatting Arsenal.
Yeah, no, it's been an unbelievable season for Arsenal, really. I know for a number of years now, there's been rival fans talking about Arsenal 4th place and whatever, and you missed out last year. And this year it's been, Arteta's made a real step up, brought in some quality additions. But what's your thoughts as an Arsenal fan on the season so far?
I mean, you can't be anything short of delighted. I mean, look, I went into the season thinking I was being overly optimistic when I said that I wanted us to get Champions League football, but do it with a degree of style. And, I felt we could beat Chelsea to it, Man United. I felt we would go up a few levels. And I thought maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. And look, still a long season. I know it feels like, because the World Cup's coming, it feels like we're hitting the halfway point. We're not. Yeah. We're really just over a third of the way through. But it's been beyond anything I expected. This isn't just Arsenal having a great start compared to what we used to. This is Arsenal having a great start in comparison to the great starts in Premier League history. This is 11 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat. And that puts us in a very elite club of teams that have actually started seasons that well. Now, it doesn't promise you anything. It doesn't guarantee you anything. But we can be really proud. And I think the team have shown a level they can reach in terms of consistency, performances at the bridge and stuff that have left Arsenal fans rightly excited. So, I'll always have the handbrake on a little bit because I've been an Arsenal fan and I know what it's like. But, we're delighted. Yeah, of course we are.
Yeah, I suppose the one thing with Arsenal as well is that I suppose the consistency, which you mentioned, is obviously a huge factor. But I think coming into this game, ever since we came back into the Premier League, I always felt that Arsenal was a game or a team we could get at and try and get a positive result against. But I think this season it's almost the complete opposite. A lot of fans just are almost writing this game off because of how well Arsenal have started this season. And I suppose the opinion has probably changed of Mikel Arteta as well. I think it was 12 months, 18 months ago. I was speaking to Arsenal fans, probably, a couple of the guys from AFTV as well. And the opinion on Arteta was quite split, wasn't it? I think any football fan base is fickle, but Arteta in or out was always a common thing. And I suppose you were maybe expecting that a little bit more when you missed out on the Champions League football. But I suppose the opinions changed. Is everyone full of praise for Arteta at the minute?
Yeah, they are. And listen, doesn't mean every single person believes that he's the guy to take us to wherever they believe the club belongs. But that's absolutely fair. I think, the beauty of football is that everyone's got opinions and ultimately things can change very quickly in football. But I think what brought Arteta what brought him a lot of faith from the Arsenal fan base was that once we came back from, the behind closed doors season, we felt so far away from the team. Something changed, whether it be us feeling connected to this new group of players, the likes of Ramsdale, White coming in, Smith Rowe, Saka from the academy, Tomiyasu, Odegaard, another one. Then this season we've added Jesus and Zinchenko, 2 players that you're thinking, they've come from City. What's Arsenal going to be to them? But they have given their absolute all. They are determined to be a success and make their time at the club a success. And everyone's pulling in the right direction. And I think the reason, missing out on Champions League football didn't, really change how people saw Arteta was mainly because, we had injuries last season, which I think played the part. But another big thing I think is that the football we were playing, the way we approach games, you could kind of see what he wanted to do. And even though it did kind of fall off at the end, I think people came away from it going, I actually get the idea. So let's
Yeah.
add a couple more and see if it kicks on. And it's more than kicked on. So you're right, the debate's there, and it's there in most fan bases. But I think everyone is really just enjoying watching it develop. And the whole Arteta in out thing, I don't think it's been a thing this season, because people are really just enjoying what it is. And even people who are critical are saying, well, look, we made such a good start. You got to kind of let this build and grow a little bit. So everyone's pulling in the same direction. I think Arteta deserves a lot of credit for that, as does do Josh Kroenke, because I think they've done things off the pitch as well that have helped. I think the documentary, people weren't sure about it. I wasn't myself, but it's helped, I think. And yeah, it's all kind of culminating to what we're seeing now.
Yeah, and I think with the Amazon thing, I suppose from your point of view, you would have been unsure. It wasn't a great end to the season for Arsenal, but it allowed even me as an outside fan to see what Arteta was really like. I think even as he's still a young coach, obviously, and he does know what he's doing. I think the approach with the Aubameyang situation. A lot of younger coaches would have completely folded at that point. So I think credit to him, and now he's being allowed to get his own players in and almost replace those sort of the Emery squad. So I think things are in the right direction. I suppose as well, everyone is still talking about City being the champions, and people can't look past City. So in some sense, it's I don't know what your thoughts. It's a good thing for Arsenal that the limelight is more on City than you guys at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's a massive part of it. I think if this Arsenal team had started this way in 2016, 2014, whatever it might be, when you didn't have these imperious sides like City and Liverpool, then I think the pressure would have been really on. Okay, this is your year now. You started this well. You can't blow it from here. But the narrative seems to be, yeah, Arsenal have started, as I said earlier in this video, one of the best starts the Premier League's ever seen, up there with, I think, 7 or 8 sides. Only one of them, Newcastle, have never won the Premier League from this position. That's how good a start it is. And yet people can't look beyond Man City. I think it's a good thing for us. Not in terms of a title race or whatever, but just in terms of allowing this team to almost what's the word, like absorb quite how good they've been and how well they've started, while also not having heaps of pressure, because people are saying, well, look, the reality is that Man City, the start they've made is also how they end games, end seasons, and that's why they're winning titles with 100 points, 98 points, 93 points, whatever it might be. So I do think it's a good thing. I do think it's a good thing that the pressure is still on City. But it's also something that Father Arteta, and I'm sure he is, he's using this to fuel the players. And look how you've started. So yeah, you're absolutely right about the City factor. And our game against them was actually postponed. It was because of the passing of the Queen. Our Europa League game had to be played, which meant that the Man City game was postponed. So be very interesting to see when they put that in, because at the moment that's the game everyone wants to see, and we'll get it at some point. But it would just be interesting if we're neck and neck with them come that game. But we'll worry about the next game first, because I don't think there's any easy 3 points in the Premier League.
No, it's been a great start, and obviously you mentioned a few players earlier on, but are there any players that you're really excited to see this weekend? Which players should Wolves be looking out for the most, do you think?
Well, Robbie made a great point on the preview we just did on AFTV, that Martinelli, with the World Cup call-up he's had, I think that was a surprise to quite a few of us. Not that he didn't deserve it, just that they've got so much talent, Brazil. So the fact he's been called up is amazing for him. He'll be hungry, wanting to prove something. But also his red card last year.
Yeah, I remember.
I wonder whether that will be on his mind, wanting to put that right. You never know what fuels footballers sometimes. But Martinelli, I wouldn't say he's been our best player this season, but I think a lot of players have taken it in turns to be kind of, it's been Xhaka for a lot of the season. Saliba's had his moments, Saka and Martinelli, Jesus. But I'll put Martinelli out there simply because of that World Cup thing. But it tends to be with Arsenal that if Thomas Partey's having a good game, then we're having a good game. And that's because when he gets on the ball, he's allowed to dictate play. And what Arteta's been doing is playing Zinchenko at left back, but he basically moves right into midfield, and the back four becomes a back three. And that just allows us more time on the ball, so and more bodies in midfield. When they start clicking, Arsenal can be quite hard to stop. But the one thing about Wolves is that actually you've got midfielders who can also get on the ball, the likes of Coutinho, Neves, Nunes, got bags of energy as well. I mean, I remember that driving run earlier in the season against Chelsea. I know you lost that
Yep.
game, but you can see the quality. And you've got players that can do something out of nothing. So, I know we'll chat about Wolves and your form hasn't been the best this season, but I don't write you guys off at all. And I think Lopetegui is a very, very shrewd appointment, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and I think similar to us. I think with the likes of Neves, who you mentioned, if he doesn't have a good game, I think we'll struggle. I
Sure.
think that
Yeah.
the midfield battle is going to be key, and we've sort of just signed a young midfielder from Mali, Boubacar Traore, who
Right. Yeah.
took a while to break in, but I think him versus Partey could be a really good, interesting matchup because Traore is well built, quite tall, quite physical, and I think that'll be an interesting battle. But going back to Martinelli as well, if with him playing on the left, our right backs have had an absolute nightmare this season. Johnny hasn't been great this year, but came off injured yesterday. Semedo, I don't know what's going on. Obviously got sent
Yeah.
off.
The red
He's
card.
but he'll be back, I think, for Saturday because he served his ban midweek. And there's a young lad, Lembakisa, who I mentioned on the preview, who I don't think will get the nod for this game, but it'll be interesting. I mean, Semedo's got a lot of making up to do, so let's see what he can do against Martinelli. But the likes of Martinelli, Jesus, they've been in my fantasy Premier League all season, so they must
Oh,
be
fair
doing
enough.
a half decent job anyway. So
Yeah, no, they are. You're right about the right back situation. I mean, I saw Nelson's red card, but is that two yellows then? So he's,
well, it was
um,
I've had a lot of discussion about this, but it was a straight red. But I think
yeah.
because it wasn't violent conduct, it's only a one match ban. Same with Cancelo as well. It's only a one match. I always thought it was a three match ban.
I mean, I didn't actually know that, but that's a good rule. To be fair, I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah.
fair rule. But okay, so he's back, and Johnny had that long term injury, didn't he? Did he have a long
Yeah.
term injury?
He
I
had
don't know.
two. He had an ACL, came back, and another ACL. Yeah, yeah. So,
He's a good player actually when he is
mm,
fit.
yeah,
Yeah, no, you're right because fullbacks have struggled all season against Martinelli. But then Azpilicueta, the more experienced fullback we've probably come up against this season, actually did a really good job on him. So,
yeah,
Martinelli still played well, but Azpilicueta kind of, you never really felt he was struggling. So, yeah, that will be a very interesting battle. And I had been kind of doing some research on Wolves, and I saw Traore, and I didn't really know a lot about him, but it seems
yeah.
that he has had a positive impact on your midfield. So, yeah, listen, I am very, trust me, I'm very wary of Wolves. I don't, not only because of the recent Premier League history, you've actually been getting good results against us since coming back into the league. But you've got real quality there, actually. Which is why I think Lopetegui is a good appointment. I think you'll get the best out of a lot of the talent you have. But they'll all want to prove a point. I mean, is that actually?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to flip around, but
That's all right.
I guess I'll ask you: you expecting the Wolves players to step up, knowing that Lopetegui now is in the stands, he's watching, and he's kind of
Yeah.
starting to build an idea for post World Cup?
I think we've already seen that impact. To be fair, this Saturday's game will be the first time he's there in the flesh.
Sure. Yeah.
But his staff were there yesterday, and a couple of fringe players got the opportunity. And even last Saturday, although we lost at Brighton, I think the overall performance was much
Yeah.
better. And there've been players like Guedes who have been quiet all season, really, really poor. And all of a sudden, we had his appointment Saturday morning, and Guedes has been good the last two games.
Mm.
So I think it will give some players a kick up the backside they've needed all season.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's a good appointment for Wolves. Obviously, we had to wait a while, but I'm looking forward to seeing how he can get on. But I think that it was an appointment that was needed, and it'll be interesting to see with him being there if it'll have even more of an effect. But I think he's picked a good game to go to. But I think under the lights at Molineux, we saw last season. I know you guys got the better of us both times, but almost derailed Wolves season as such because we had good momentum going up to that point, but both really feisty games. Even
Yeah.
it was pretty even the seasons before, wasn't it? Both teams
Yeah.
splitting the results as well. If I had to trouble you, James, for a score prediction, I know most people don't like to do this, but I'd
No,
assume you're going to be backing an Arsenal win, aren't you?
I mean, I am because the team have earned my trust. And what I will say is there's a bit like Southampton when we drew a couple of weeks ago. Again,
Yeah.
Southampton fans were feeling a very similar thing. It's a case of how much they're going to beat us by. And I'm sort of always there to say, listen, it's football. You never know.
Yeah.
And with all due respect to Southampton, I think Wolves have a lot more talent and have done a lot more in the Premier League the last couple of years to make me kind of worry. So trust me, it would not surprise me if Wolves turned up and this proved a very sticky game. I could even see us winning and it being a really sticky game for us. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win. But I'm wary. I'm wary of your player. It's a good team. Then I really rate some players like Max Kilman. I don't know if he's even playing well for you guys anymore. But there was I really there's a lot of players there that I can see really going up a few levels still. And causing us a few problems. But hopefully we've got enough goals in us. And I think. Are you guys still struggling for goals? I know you tried to address it with Diego Costa and all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we scored twice last week in the league. We're
Yeah.
still struggling massively. But I was going to quickly ask as well in regards to the Carabao Cup. I haven't mentioned that. Obviously, you guys lost out last night. Do you think that? I know it was a pretty heavily rotated Arsenal team. Do you think that'll have any effect on the squad going into Saturday's game?
I would hope the players. They've shown they're very robust mentally, but I'd hope they'd be robust enough. We lost to PSV. In midweek, and that was a slightly awkward Europa League game. It meant we had to beat Zurich, which we did. But they responded really well to that and went and beat Forest 5-0 after that defeat. So I'm hoping that Guardiola City teams had a knack for losing a game and then going and winning the next one 5-0. So I wouldn't mind Arsenal developing that.
I hope not.
Well, exactly, but that would be all right if we develop that kind of a trend. But the one thing is that. Because we made 10 changes going into that game, we had a goalkeeper making his debut. And listen, by the way, the 11 that went out there was more than good enough to to not lose that game. But I would think that the players starting on Saturday night won't be sort of thinking with their confidence knocked. They have no reason for their confidence to be knocked. They should be looking around them and going, these are the group of players around me that just went and dominated at Stamford Bridge. So hope they can do a similar thing. So it's disappointing though. Don't get me wrong. I want to win silverware. So I wasn't just saying, oh, it doesn't matter. For me, it did matter. But I can brush it off looking at the wider context of the season.
Yeah, and Arsenal obviously having a few players called up for international duty, like of Ben White. There's even been a lot of discussion about him. Martinelli, like you said, as an out, I don't study Brazilian football, but I would have thought Martinelli deserved to be on the plane anyway. But I think there will be a lot of players on that pitch on Saturday, not just Arsenal, Wolves players as well, saying this is why I'm on the plane. This is why I deserve to be, representing my country. So it's going to be a really tasty game, James. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you jumping on Talking Wolves, mate. AFTV, what's going on over there at the minute? What are you guys up to?
Busy previewing this. We've got our live shows at 5 p.m. We've got Box to Box obviously out, which we did with you guys as well. We've got a preview, a Predict 11, all sorts. I mean, covering it as much as possible because the Arsenal fans can't get enough Arsenal at the moment, and I think that's fair enough. But also, like I said, these games, they always still feel like massive games. There was a time where even 10 years ago, any away game, you think, well, unless it's the big six, I'm expecting us to do something. But the way the Premier League's evolved and clubs like Wolves and how brilliant they've been since they've returned to the Premier League have a big part to play in all this. I just don't think there's any easy game. And we find ourselves going into these games going, it's a big one because these are big tests as well. So, I think everyone's excited for it. And I think, if we can get the win, it's a nice way to send the players off. But whatever happens, it's been a very positive start. So, everyone's enjoying it.
Definitely. Wolves versus Arsenal at Molineux, guys. James, thanks for jumping on Talking Wolves. I'll catch up soon.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
So big thanks to James for his thoughts. I'm sure you guys know who AFTV are, but I will leave a link to their channel in the description down below as well. And do let me know your thoughts, guys. Really looking forward to this game. Third Molineux game in a week. Under the lights. At Molineux, Saturday evening. I think anything can happen. Under the lights, always, if we can get the atmosphere up for it. And I think Arsenal always tend to bring quite a rowdy away support. I think it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Will Arsenal's defeat during the week in the Cup knock them? Possibly not, but I'm hoping the win for Wolves in the Cup against Leeds will give us just that little bit of a boost. And I'm really looking forward to it, guys. As always, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I really do appreciate your support for this first part of the season. Of course, lots more content coming out, even throughout the World Cup break. And the Molineux Sleep Out is just over a week away. So if you want to donate to that, I'll leave another link to that in the description down below. We're over our target now, but it'd be great to raise some more money for a great cause as well. As always, guys, enjoy your weekend. We'll be back with the reaction after the game on Saturday, and I'll see you all very, very soon.